Well, hi. Fatty and I are here today. I'm gonna attempt something I haven't yet, so be gentle with me because I'm gonna be talking about things that are in my inner core and part of my spiritual journey, which is goes on for eternity, from what I understand. So bear with me because this might be a new series. First, I'm going to talk about Ram Dass a little bit because he brings up a really interesting point which resonated hardcore with me in that we tend to be socialized into two categories, like good behavior, bad behavior. And sometimes just, due to a necessity for shortcuts, when you're raising somebody to fit into society, they display bad behavior. It's kind of like shut down. And I mean, at that time, you can't really get into metaphysical arguments and, it's all that stuff. So the thing is, though, and I think we can all attest to this, is when you're growing up and you're doing something that seems to come naturally to you and it's labeled as bad, you can really internalize that as inadequacy. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm different from other people. And I felt that a lot, compounded with my religious experiences. So I grew up Catholic, and I should say a disclaimer that a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, it's my own internalizing of what I learned. Oh my gosh, my shirt is so wrinkly. Sorry guys, this cowgirl is like out of control. Okay, so I should say this is how I internalize things. This is a very big, very rich religion, and it can come into play with the time I grew up with, the priests that I interacted with, etc., the way that it was shown to me, whatever, the way I understood it at that age. So I don't want this to go into like I'm dissing Catholicism. I'm just telling you that it had a profound impact on the way that I view myself and my self-esteem. So if we go back to Ram Dass, you're good, you're bad. It's not always easy to separate that as behaviors or ways to fit into society. Catholicism had similarities. You're sinning, you're good, you're bad. And this caused a great deal of anxiety inside of me that continues to this day, because the thing about being a sinner in the Catholic Church is that you go to hell for certain things. So this really caused, again, anxiety my entire life, because I would want to be good. Do you know what? Like, in my heart of hearts, I would want to be good. What does that mean, to be good? Is being angry bad? I don't think so. So it just called into question for me so many behaviors. Are they good? Are they bad? Is swearing bad? Is drinking bad? Is it enough to get you to hell? Because if you miss church on Sunday and die on Monday, that's a mortal sin. You're going to hell. And there's a couple things going on. I couldn't make sense of why there was such a gravity to something as little as missing mass. And like, it's on the same level as murder, people. Also, I want to be good. Why am I not always good? And then an all-consuming dread of hell in the back of my mind all the time. So it sort of split my personality. There's like the Elizabeth that behaves, and then there's also the Elizabeth that has psychological things going on that she's not mature enough or experienced enough to really fully understand, and is doing those. And it really, my whole life, I felt this weight that I was not good enough. And the problem when that happens is that you attract people that will treat you that way, and you'll accept it because you don't feel good enough. So I've just put up with a lot of lousy behavior over the years. And I was always worried, like, what is the threshold where you get to go to heaven? Like, can I slip in with a 50%? Does it have to be 99% good? It becomes irrational superstition. So not only was my personality divided from itself, but I also feel like I was blocked and prevented from really figuring out who I was. Because if you're sinning, just stop sinning. But what would dissolve the desire for those behaviors? Where does that behavior come from? Is it really helpful to have a knee-jerk reaction every time you do something that causes shame to feel like a bad person? Or is it better to let yourself off the hook and figure out what's going on in the subconscious? What's going on in your life that's causing that behavior? So I really feel like it stunted my growth in many ways because I just tried to fit into this mold. And I feel like if you're internalizing so much and worrying about whether you're going to go to hell, you start to look around at other people and you judge them and you worry that they're going to go to hell too. And I mean, we see this throughout history with how the Spanish, we all know that, how the Native Americans were treated. It's such a blinding of other ways to express spirituality and other ways to express life and a connection to God, because you're viewing it through a lens of, oh no, you're going to hell. So that's sort of on the grand scale. On the interpersonal scale, I was quite a judgmental person for so long, still am today, I might add, really. I mean, it's kind of fun sometimes. But yeah, that's my own internal pain. So anybody out there who felt judged by me, I truly apologize. I'm a mess inside. So as I got older, I started exploring other spirituality and came across law of attraction stuff, as we all do. And the thing there is I almost feel like it was the good, bad, sort of repackaged into negative and positive manifestations. And so here I am, just a girl that kind of wishes her angels would come down and say, you're fine, you're doing your best, don't even worry about it, you're not veering off path, it's all good, all these worries you have about hell or, are you good enough, they're all in your head. Because I feel like the law of attraction, at its rudimentary understanding, is that you're going to attract, you're thinking something negative, you're going to attract something negative. And again, I feel that suffocating block of, okay, but I'm feeling what I'm feeling. If I could be good in the Catholic world, I would. If I could be positive all the time, I would. What is all the stuff below the surface that needs to be dealt with? Because you can't just switch, I'm angry, that's bad, it's going to attract more anger. Or I'm anxious, that's bad, I'm going to attract more anxiety. And I think the result is, like, we just see all these people detached from themselves, detached from their emotions, faking this positivity. But as I go along my journey, I feel like you can't fool your psychology and you can't fool God. So is there the space to actually take a look at things? Why am I waking up in the middle of the night and eating a bunch of Clear and Special K bars? Why? Something inside of me is saying, like, there's a deficiency. Not a deficiency in your personality, but there's just something that needs to be looked at and dissolved. So I feel like that approach is a lot more healthy. It has definitely led me to be a more accepting person. You meet people where they're at, and judging yourself doesn't get anywhere. And this like overwhelming, consuming fear of hell or fear of the universe sending you negative energy isn't helping anybody either. I also felt like I was in a bit of a catch-22 because, and this is going to Freud's theories a little bit, so I'll give him credit. When you repress the id, or you're feeling, you repress the id, you're feeling inadequate, it tends to actually continue the patterns. It tends to bounce back. And we saw this in, I'm going back to my English literature days, Don Juan. And yes, it is pronounced Don Juan, not Don Juan, because it's, this was a parody. And basically, his mother protected him from being a player, and he ended up being a player. Sorry, I got fatty's so messy. So repression tends to, like, sure, you can go with it for a little while, but it tends to bounce back in an even stronger way. So I didn't find that was working. And then when you give in to things you're repressing, then the shame spiral happens all over again. And the fear of hell and the fear of manifesting terrible energy and stuff like that. And I found it difficult. I mean, when I listened to like Hay House podcasts and Gaia interviews and stuff like that, a lot of these people are like, oh yeah, like attracts like, and they're coming from a standpoint where they're in a way a finished product. And I look at them and I'm like, is it easy? Am I like doing something wrong? And that sort of leads to some feelings of shame and inadequacy, and back down the spiral we go. There's just such a meaty part of the spiritual journey that isn't always talked about. And okay, again, disclaimer, I'm totally generalizing. Some people do talk about this. Sonia Choquette has an amazing book about walking the Camino, and she has a lot of very frustrated, negative, dark, depressed feelings, and that's part of the journey. And Teal Swan is another one that I listen to that sort of accepts that part of the messy, overwhelming emotions. And I have to just also add too, like during the coronavirus, I have experienced days where I'm uncontrollably crying and in a full force depression the entire day, but it's almost like recalibrating my system to be more grounded, and I feel way less depression. I feel amazing and light, and that recalibrating and purging of those negative emotions was a necessary part to boost me along the way. So I guess bottom line, I feel like our relationship with negative feelings and with negative desires and with temptation hasn't always been meshed and integrated as well as it could. And I think it leads to a lot of problems. I think it leads to repression and overindulgence. I think it leads to people being quite judgmental and lacking compassion. I think it leads to fundamentalist views of the world that are not accepting of any other views. I think it leads to fear. I think it leads to anger. I think there's a lot going on. And at this point in my life, I am interested in dealing with whatever is rumbling in my subconscious. And luckily, I'm starting to be introduced to people like Sonia Choquette who are allowing me that space to explore those feelings. And I'm not saying we should revel in negativity or anything like that, but I would like the fear element to be taken out when we're experiencing a dark night of the soul, in order that we do evolve. I mean, even Jesus got mad in the temple, am I right? So when did we become this spiritually, I keep saying repressed, I'm sorry, I'm saying like the same words over and over again, so deal with it. But I see some holes. Like I definitely follow Joe Dispenza, and we can change our neurology to be more positive and stuff like that, and bad feelings are definitely addictive. I'm not going into that side of things. I'm just saying that there's some holes in religion and philosophy and spiritual thinking, holes and space, that things are more complicated than they seem, and the path is it's not easy, it's not straight, and negative emotions serve their purpose. So being introduced to Sonia Choquette really helped. I also then recently got into, it's this group called Dharma Punx, Punx, and Noah Levine is kind of like their spokesperson, and he is very interested in Buddhism. So which is like the loving kindness meditations, basically. But here we have this guy who used to be, you know, kind of in trouble with the law, addicted to drugs. Sorry, I'm going to get his story totally wrong. Look it up for yourself. I have the worst memory and I get things wrong, so I apologize for that. But basically, when he learned how to meditate, that's how he slowly, you know, got himself out of this. That he teaches a non-judgmental awareness, detachment, because you really can't trust, you know, that you can't hold on to the things that are going on in your mind. Like some of that's ego, some of that's just, you know, old patterns that need to be cleared out. It's just unfortunate when all that stuff, you identify with who you are and your quality and your value. That's where it gets really sticky. So I have found his meditations very helpful. And again, though, this is not like a straight and narrow path. I have lots of days. This is lifetimes. Like, no worry. I have found his detachment ideas very interesting. It is a commitment. I think any spiritual practice needs to be grounded in reality. I'm learning as I get older, and the universe is giving me no space to like have bad habits, that you got to practice these things on a daily basis. There's no corners that you can really cut. If you want to have that alignment. And I mean, it's difficult because the world is bombarding you with a lot of negativity, and it is very difficult to navigate. And what I found is that because of my being overly focused on the outcome, I want to go to heaven, or I don't want to go to hell, or I want to be good, or whatever, number one, it blocked me from God. Because say I did something bad, say it was like gossipy or mean to somebody or drank too much or whatever it was, I would go into a shame spiral, and I would almost kind of hide from God and feel like it's pathetic for me to talk to God, or there's something like wrong about, you know, I know I'm going to do something stupid, but like I'm going to do it. Can I still come to God after? Is that horrible? So my relationship with God has always been quite blocked and quite confusing. And these days, I've sort of taken a step back and have not been so overly focused on the outcome. Because I think when you're overly focused on the outcome, you're not allowing the space to let the truth come in. What if there's a better plan for you? And you're just so focused on like, oh, I want to get married, or like, oh, I want to have kids, or sorry, I don't mean to minimize anything. I'm sounding like a jerk right now. But you know what I mean? Like, when you're so focused on an outcome, sometimes it can be all consuming and you miss so many of the details. And it also sort of like, in a way, prevents you from getting it, because, and how do I say this? Because you're missing the fact that there's a million steps. You're heading towards that goal. There's a ton of steps that will get you to that goal. You have no idea what those steps are. And you can't, you know, like, you can't skip those steps, basically. When you sit back and you're like, God, I want this. Like, I want a loving relationship. Be with me. Teach me how to, you know, do your will. What is it you want? I might not get that relationship, but I'm just letting you know that's what I want. But I'm just here to be the best version of myself that I can on this planet. I just feel like that allows a little bit more space for you to live your life more enjoyably, and to dissolve some blocks and hear God a little bit better. And to be asking questions like, okay, God, if I want a partner, what is the best way to do that? Do I need to see my value? Step one, do I need to see my value? And then maybe that's something that you can work on with God, versus why don't I have my partner yet? I asked for a partner. Where is he? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's kind of a difference energetically with those two. So that's sort of something that I'm working on these days, is just like letting go. I'm not going to say let go of God. I'm not saying it, but I guess that's what it is. And just allowing the steps as they come along. I mean, you just never know how the dots connect. I got the job I'm in now because I was in a hellhole job at one point, but got a good reputation out of that. And that reputation traveled to another place that heard about me and then hired me because they heard that. I could have never planned that. I could have never seen that coming. And if you told me at the time, I would have been so happy, because I just felt like I was stuck in such a negative, horrible place with no purpose. So it's just like living in the mystery of life is not my favorite thing, because I'm an absolute control freak, but I'm seeing how it's necessary. Living in the mystery, letting go, trying to hear God more, non-judgmental attachment, not identifying myself, my value, my soul with my thoughts. Can I turn my weaknesses to God? You know, I feel like I'm always going to be making these mistakes. Hey, I would love to be clear and pure conduit to God, but that's not how it is. And I would also like to not feel this paralyzing superstition and shame that makes me feel so disconnected from God. Padre Pio, I have this Padre Pio magnet that my mom gave me that I love, that says hope, pray, and don't worry. And I feel like that just kind of sums everything up. So I hope that this made sense, because it was a little bit rambly. And thank you for indulging me in this super long video where I talk about these things, but I just, and you just got to get it off your chest. So I hope some people resonated with that. I hope some people find it helpful, because there's a lot of lessons in life, for sure, till we reach enlightenment, right, Fatty? This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Anyway, sorry. Oh my God, I'm off the rails. Okay, bye. Have a great day.